Welcome everyone. Today we'll have a special Wolcen guide with Light-Saber Cannon Mage. So how does this mage work is that of course we're using a dagger and we're going to be manually applying Mark of Impunity. Now if you do have your actual belt, you don't have this first slot needed, and what you can do is you can actually go into Plague Burst or go into any of the spell of your choice. You can go for Blink, Plague Burst for more explosion damage, you can go for Blink. And this gives you added jump, which means you're more mobile. But if the case you don't have the belt, just have any other belt that's good for you and have this particular skill on and auto cast this with your fingers. You can auto cast it automatically with the belt, but if you don't have it, this still works. So getting right into the build, what we're going to do is I'll be showing a replay of the combination of this build. I'll also show another explained replay of how we actually fight with different mind theories and different crafting of how we avoid units, how we drag them, how we deal damage to different units. So the combo goes this way. You go with your Anemone, which drags enemies in. You also drops globes, which gives you regen of health and resistance. While enemies are dragged in, you're going to be calling down from the sky with the burn damage and the cursed stacks. And following that, what you're going to do is you're going to get a Ballhawk down while this is happening. And while your rage is getting into higher territory, the willpower goes lower, you're going to get a cannons down. The cannon is only one cannon, but this cannon is an AOE cannon, which helps us debuff everyone. While that's happening, you'll be debuffing enemies with Mark, and you'll be Light-Saber hitting everyone with this combo. And this does a tremendous ton of AOE damage. The AOE damage is close to many millions per second, and this kills the underlings that explode and kills the rest of the units. So you're here to group enemies and kill them together. The Mark having the percentage base damage upon death actually crits, and this is a major source of our damage. We're using enemies maximum HP for damage, and initially I was worried we don't do enough single target damage. Then with a proper playstyle, you actually do this correctly by pulling enemies together. Enough theory crafting, let's go into the replay. Let me show you guys the whole fight. Here we're into the replay, and we're looking for movement speed, we're looking for monster that summons another monster, we're looking for different modifiers that's not going to be too much trouble. Usually specialist is not the trouble for us, so we can give specialists different modifiers, and other times we can just go for the quad control, go for something basic. You really want to find the monster that summons more monster upon death, which is really good, but if you don't find it, just give specialist buffs, is okay. So here we have the maximum level of Untainted. We'll go through the whole replay and I'll explain my concept of gameplay. So at the start, for the particular build, we're going to group enemies together. And by grouping them, we will be doing tremendous damage in terms of AoE. You can see here I'm using Solar 4. Later I decided to adjust it for the Ballhawk down for more resistance, which do help me survive a little better. So notice that when we group them together, you should be pressing Q to be debuffing them with the trial. And if you don't have the trial, you should be manually clicking the Q to be debuffing them. The order goes, you go group them together, you cast your AoEs, then you debuff them. When your rage is too high, you use the cannons to expand the rage, also debuff enemies, which is very important. Now we're going to keep moving forward, and one big factor with any of the AoE explosion kind of mage style is that you want to group enemies together. We have the perks when enemies are close to us, we do increased damage, and when there's like 10 of them close to us, we do like 40 or 50% more damage. I think that's addictive, but that still helps. Now, I will be purposely waiting for the Untainted if possible, but notice here I saw basically like a soul summoning storm. This storm is going to continue summon enemies, and it's perfect. I'll try to drag all the champions and all the specialists into the soul storm, and well, they got me too low, so I had to spend a bit of resource to heal myself up, and I actually used all the minions here to kill the champions. I'm hoping the Untainted gets summoned here, and when they are summoned, it's going to be really good. Because actually I should get the sound up first. So because when they're summoned, yeah, I'll get the sound up. When they're summoned, it's gonna be great simply because I have so much enemy here to explode, which is a great resource. We consider the high HP enemies as a resource in this build, and notice I'm grouping them. I'm waiting for the Untainted to be summoned, and you can see the damage numbers are popping up too frequently. Once the game actually crashed because there's too much damage of instance. The Light-Saber here and the cannon actually does AoE damage as well, and the damage gets incredibly high the moment one of the unit dies and chain explosion happens. You can see the Untainted here, and I'm actually using the Soulstone to our advantage. It's about 64 melee untainted, 1 explosion. We're waiting for 1 more explosion now. Every 7 seconds I get 1 explosion. And there we go. 2 explosion. I check on the map, he's already dead. I see this 1 more skull. I'm here for that skull. I'm here for my untainted kill. So if you stand next to the soulstone and the untainted gets summoned, it's actually so easy to clear him. But you might want to consider keeping the untainted low and take him to the boss and explode him on the boss. Now we're gonna do the same combo. We drag them, we're gonna cast AoEs, we cannon them, and we go. We can repeat. Only change here and compared to the current build is we have taken the bulk of down, which give us the defensive capacities while still doing the holy damage. Both actually works really well. Notice this untainted, I see another soulstone, I can do the same trick. And usually I have terrible trouble with soulstone because they can't be debuffed, I don't kill them fast. Now they actually a really good resource. Same as before, you drag them together, you're gonna cast your AoEs, and you're gonna try to holy smite them by the end. Because once they get to 50%, they will die in 1 shot. And yeah, just spamming here, and I can face tank them with the lifesteal and the globe regen. And once they explode, untainted dies, I'll keep going. And there's no need to stay here because the monsters you kill from the soulstone don't count towards the boss. And here I thought I can kill everyone. And you know, notice that the bar up here, over here, actually did not go up, simply because those monsters don't count towards the boss. Likely this will be a fast run because I managed to get 2 untainted killed very fast next to the soulstone. Now if you don't have the soulstone, you can do something like this. You drag them in and you time yourself right so that untainted actually runs into a pool of AoE damage, because those untainted can't be controlled. And the only trouble we have with untainted and big champion monsters that can't be controlled. The moment we get the boss ready, we'll keep running for the boss. We keep all the monsters on the map if possible. This way, when we need to use them for the explosion of max HP, we can drag the boss back. I didn't perk for the roll through enemies. We can definitely consider that because right now the enemies block me. Then I have to kind of drag them out of the way with anomaly. But if I perk for that, I can just roll through them. HP wise for the build, we're looking at about 80k, and the biggest factor is we have great sustain in terms of the globe regen, and also notice here they're blocking me. I have to drag them out of the way. The great sustain is we regen willpower, we regen the shield, we also regen the health with our lightsaber as well, which is Infinity Blade. Here I was trying to time the boss into here. One thing with any of the boss is you want to time the boss into a group of units, you want to explode onto him. This is 85 million, let's see how much we do after 1 rally. Now the downside is, I am not seeing there's more champions and there's more units here. And here I'm face tanking with a bunch of debuff. If you look carefully here, so before I get to anything else, I have a bunch of debuff. Usually at this stage, when boss debuff you like this, you want to reset the fight, you want to keep the monsters controlled with an anomaly, you want to come back with no debuff. But here I didn't notice the debuff, I thought I could explode them first, then get away from the boss, and you get to see the downside of trying to get a bit overzealous. So here, I could have waited to revive the debuff to go away, but I thought they're gonna die very soon. And we're gonna do the same mistake again. I was like, they're about to die. And the same mistake happened again. So notice the debuff have disappeared. Now that I'm no longer vulnerable, I can try to explode and kill them. But that was 2 very quick back to back death. And let's look at the boss. He is on 85 million. Yeah, 85 million, and bang. So did you see that? So we went from 85 million to almost instant kill with the combination of units grouped together. If those units are not there, what we're going to do is we're going to drag them down and find a bunch of other units to do the same thing. Because they were champion monsters, this allowed me for a really good map clear. And of course, you don't need the trial because this build manually have the mark of impunity. You also don't need anything particular except that chest armor that gives you critical chance. But if you don't have the chest armor, this can also work simply because you just do less critical damage, but the same amount of damage output overall if you still quit. You can tailor into ferocity if you don't have the chest, which turns freeze damage into critical, but that's, you know, that's about 1/3 of the damage, or maybe 50% of damage gone. So we're back here with the character summary. Basically for the character, this is a never 90 character. I did just perk it out for more toughness. There's no need to, because majority of your points will be going to toughness. You just get a little more HP than usual. So when you're about level 75 or 80, or even, you know, level 73-ish, we can get into the build. you just go majority into toughness. If you want more damage, actually wisdom will help, because if you have the force waiver, this gives you more critical chance and more freeze chance, more critical chance. But if you don't have it, you do lose at least 50% of damage, but you can still use the similar build. But what you gain in return for that is you gain a ton of defense. So that means you can face tag anything. You just kill them maybe 1 or 2 minutes slower. Now, usually the contribution is about, 8 points to toughness, 2 points to wisdom, or even 10 points to toughness, depending how you play. Getting right into the combination of the talents. We'll go through the talents of level 90. After that, we'll go through with, I'll post one of the talents about level 75 or level 70 or level 73, which will be enough for the build. As for talents, we don't usually need the critical chance. This helps a little bit, but those is here for the last few points I used. So you go through the offensive perks, you get the critical damage because we'll be critting a lot. I went here for the additional damage of debuffs, which will be debuffing enemies at least different debuffs, at least 4 or 6. And I didn't pick the perk for more ailment stacks because I'll be debuffing enemies pretty frequently and I don't want to lose that 30% damage. It's not a lot, but it's still something. I also save a point here. After that, we get additional chance of ailments, and we'll be following into 2 of the offensive perks here, into the Occult Affliction, which give us 7% more damage on cursed units. You'll be manually apply the curses, or if you have the trial, you just automatically apply it. Now next up, we'll be doing some secret damage, and this sudden death means we can smite champion monsters or any of the boss at 15%, which is really good for us. We do definitely need 2 ailments because we need the ailments for the damage on the particular perk with Infinity Blade. Infinity Blade here increase damage per element stacks as well. Very similar to Bleeding Edge, but it doesn't have that big of a multiplier. After getting the offensive perks, what you want to do is you want to go through here to consider getting the higher chance of the ailment chances. Because high ailment chances means you debuff more likely, you also increase your critical chance if you have force waiver. If you do not have this one, simply come over here for the critical hit damage, and this is actually still very good even after the nerf. After that, the major defense perk of the build is over here. You'll be going for the Blast Mana, which gives you resistance up on picking health globes. I believe this perk here with 4% globe regen with the instance of damage we're dealing is enough to give us enough globes to heal us and also to give us resistance. With so many globes on the map, to avoid the game crashing, you're actually going to pick up globes in 15 radius, and also to benefit yourself a little more, you can go into the 24% force field regen if you have any force shield. If you have no force shield on the build, let's say if you have no force shield here, you don't have to go for this perk. And this is like a late game perk when we have too many points. Similar for this one, we'll touch on it. After that, you want to be blocking for 6%, and this gives you a free shield pretty much. And this is a really good one, because we'll be targeting into block chances with some of the gears as well. We'll be going over here for the status effect, which time cannot heal, for the additional 120% damage onto all sources when enemies are debuffed by status. We'll also take the Dire Juncture. I didn't take the additional 5% here because I don't feel the need for maximum health, and I was saving the points for later. You want 2 of the maximum ailment stacks, this give us 10. Those 2 over here give us 10 again, so we stack enemies to 30. After that, you want to be perking over here, maybe not for the lifesteal, but you want to be perking over here for the frenzy. So you get 5% damage for each nearby enemy, because as a Light-Saber Cannon Mage, you get right into the fights. You want to get as many enemies as you can together. Sometimes you look at about 20-30 enemies, sometimes 10. So you're looking at about 50 to 150 more damage with the percentage. Next up, you really want to perk over here for 2 things. This is a major boost to your damage because enemies will always be slowed because we have status, and will always be pretty much disabling enemy. And this gives 25% more damage. I believe this one is multiplicative, which is very big. And this is where the last source of defensive capacities comes in. If you short of defensive capacities, get this one early, because this one allows you to wear the resistance armor with helmet and chest. Because we're running a rogue armor, that means we don't get the most benefit out of it. But if you happen to run a resistance chest, I'll even show you guys. So here I'm at 16k resistance with rogue armor. if I take this down, nothing happens, right? If I put down a 300 resistance chest, I go up by 3,000. Sometimes you can get a chest of this to 800 or even 900 resistance. That takes you to super tank. So the sacrifice is super tank and offensive capacities. After that, you really want to get into the disallowing vessel with the next perk, which gives you more resistance when you stand still. Because we'll be face checking bosses like this, we won't be doing much, we'll just stay here, exactly. And notice my disallowing vessel don't reduce, because when you attack with the spell, it doesn't count as movement. It's only when you're running, the disallowing vessel goes down. So when I'm actually doing this, this works. So I'll be just moving like this. Next up, if you have spare points, go into the block efficiency and majority for the resistance and also for the block chances. This is not a big factor because we'll be face tanking a lot of the times, so it's a very small factor when we're just here for the 20% because we're so close. And if you don't have those, don't worry about those 3 points. So just get those two, that should be enough. You can see that after getting those, I have some spare points because this account is quite high level. And by the time you get a majority of those, you should be around level 73 or 75. So I can go for more critical chance, more critical damage. Here I went for the shield charge, and if my shield is full, I also get the reduced damage taken. So having a small shield helps with that, because a small shield means my shield is always full, I reduce damage taken. And that's pretty much for the perks. I'll also post the talents online for you guys so you can see the website version of it. Let's go into the skill choices and the item choices. As for the skill choices, you want to perk up your Mark of Impunity for the curse stacks and also Explosion of Maximum Health, which is a big source of damage for most of the builds in the game right now. This is a massive one because you use the HP of the monsters against them. This is also critical hits. After that, you can go with the Guild for the spread, which is really good because you don't have to, press it too many times. As for Anomaly, the biggest source of damage of AoE actually comes from this skill. You want to get the freeze chances, or you want to get the freeze damage, so Anomaly actually uses freeze. To do so, you want your item on the weapon to have spell damage majority in the freeze section. So notice there's 2 freeze, 2 spells, which enables me to go freeze. So you can see now it's freeze. Over here with the freeze chances, this gives me better critical chance. Go for the effect of AoE damage, go for the pulling of enemies, and go for the globe explosion. Because you perked for the globe pickup, you also perk for the explosion, you will take a lot of globes on the map, and this won't crash the game or the server. Otherwise, with the semi-explosion kind of playstyle we have, there's too many globes. Other than that, you can cast it twice, you can also go for longer duration. So 7 seconds, 6 second duration. So over here with the tier, we're going to have the shock and burn damage. We can convert into freeze damage into the burn. This gives another element to trigger. And if you notice here, we're looking at status, we're looking at curses, we're looking at shock and burn. That's already 4 stats for debuff effect. And after that, we'll be looking into a bit of the secret damage. So what we can do is we can actually perk ourselves for secret damage with this one, bulk off done. And here we had too much lightning, so if we actually have more secret damage over lightning here, we'll actually be doing secret damage with weakness debuff. And because we don't have the source of weakness, this perk here also gives us weakness debuff when we block. We do block very frequently, this guarantees we also get the weakness debuff. So if that wasn't debuffing them, we have another source of debuff. So we're going to bulk off done. Actually, we'll come back here and explain the spells here. So lower cooldown and better chances of debuff, and this is not necessary, you can pick any of that. I think critical chance or anything here will help actually. Actually no, this is actually necessary, I forgot. So this converts force into fire. I was like, I don't need the 10% damage here. This is actually pretty necessary. It converts force into fire, and here it deals damage over time, very important. Critical damage and cooldown, that's what we want for this. For the Bowhawk, majority of the time I just go for the resistance. You don't have to convert damage into secret here. You can go for the better healing rate and the ticks, or you can go for the lower cooldown. It is always optional, and you can go for anything that satisfy your build. For me, just having the resistance and be able to deal secret damage is all I wanted. Because when I'm fighting the boss, if you look at my resistance, I press the...
It can't be done.
Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button. I press R here. Notice that the resistance goes up even further because of the buffs. This is actually not bad. And also we have chance of inflicting elements here. So if you look here, the chance of inflicting ailments while inside of the effect is increased. I'm using this spell instead of the solo 4 because previously with solo 4 I'm a range mage, now I'm a melee fighter. So I get thick into things, I want to be tanking, I want to use my melee skills with the lightsaber. And that's the difference. Next up we have the cannon. The cannon previously was perked for single target damage for double cannons, now we change the perk from here. So everything is the same from the previous mage. So we have the skill duration, we have lower cooldown, rotates for targeting, the cannon fires extra cannon and also get the ailment chances. We have now the cannon does AOE damage. So basically if you get a cannon up, which we did need some rage, this cannon, notice it's fine AOE wise, this gives us better AOE chances and this also debuff enemies with poison and bleeding. This is a physical debuff. I managed to get that on the dagger with Rend and Toxic. If you don't have that, you can socket your weapon into Rend and Toxic to attacks, that would help, but I always aim for these skills first. If you want the full guide on how to get ailments on things with spells and attacks, definitely check out my guide with the ailments. It was posted I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, but still very useful. And finally, this is the highlight of the show. I did take my time onto this, right? So, the Infinity Blade is the lightsaber attack, and how it works is when we kill enemies with it, we'll get some willpower. This is not a must-have, but it does help with the rage. Helps with rage and also willpower conversion, and gets more willpower. It's optional for this one. You can go for ailment damage, you can go for something else. As for the next one, this is really important because we'll be critical hitting a lot. Each time we crit, we get 25 of the willpower. And if you remember, we can also perk into spells that give us willpower when we actually have high shield, which this actually, there is a perk here that gives us higher critical chance when we have higher willpower. I can consider perking into that if I sacrifice some other points. So it is optional for that, and I'll leave it to you guys. If you're high enough level, if you want to go into this, go for that. But as for me, when my shield is high enough, which will be life stealing shield as well with the lightsaber, this also helps. I actually skipped a little bit. Oops. So what I meant was, there is a perk here that actually gives us force shield when we hit enemies. The force shield is not a lot, but just having the force shield and hitting enemy multiple times does help, because we also get force shield from the globes if you pick this particular perk. So this is what I meant. You get 25% of the force shield when you get the globes. You actually get a lot of them. After that, so many clicks. So after that, we can give the bonus to shadow or added damage, and also we get a bit of increased damage. That's not a must-have. This is not a must-have. You can actually perk into other things that actually suit your playstyle. For me, those will do. And also the increased damage for each ailment stack is going to be a massive one for the Infinity Blade, because we'll be stacking them for at least 5 or 6 different stacks. Lastly, we do give them a debuff for increased spell damage taken. This should be a multiplier or addictive damage increase, so this is really good. And when we're actually comboing enemies, as you can see in the replay, we actually do a lot more damage than usual. So we're doing tremendous AOE damage with this combination, because this hits everyone. Again, you'll be combining them with those combos, and you hit everyone with a whole combo. And make sure you debuff them as you go. Next up, let's look into the items and how does it work with this whole talent tree. So we'll be doing majority of the occult damage, and yes, there's elemental damage, there's most of the spell damage. The occult damage is actually not that important. The biggest part is critical damage, because we'll be converting a lot of the freeze chances into critical chance. Now if you don't have this armor, what you can do is get the resistance armor and go for the critical damage still on the ring, but go for spell damage and occult damage. That's the alternative. So for the weapon, you do want high elemental ailment chances, and that's the biggest one, because this gives you higher critical chance. Similarly for the catalyst, you want higher elemental ailment chances, and that turns into critical chance. As for the gears, you're looking for resistance, you're looking for toughness, you're looking for occult damage or spell damage. So those are the resistance gears, and those are the resistance gears with occult damage. You can have spell damage as well, which actually works pretty nicely as well. For the helmet, get as much resistance as you can. Cooldown is not important. You can get the flat toughness, and you can also get the critical chance, ailment chances, or just get the spell damage or occult damage. For the belt, you want HP, you want spell power, you want resistance, you want a lot of defensive capacities. And lastly, if you have the trial, I do recommend the trial because you can remove this for another spell. And if you go for another spell, having our Plague Burst is actually really good. Or you just go for the Blink. I mentioned this earlier, those are very versatile. One is offensive, one is utility. For the boots, go for resistance, movement speed, very good, and also go for toughness and occult damage. Similar for this ring as well, sometimes you do want to perk for lightning damage. This allows you to actually have lightning chances on the particular spell. But if you don't have that, just socketing for lightning to spell damage, that should give you one more element. There isn't that much to do with the particular sockets, it's just personal preference. For me, I want to balance the block chances, I want to balance resistance, and also have a bit of HP. I actually didn't roll this properly, I should roll this into a block chance or maximum HP. You can also go for more resistance, up to you. Don't focus on one set of defense. Here we have the resistance and also block chances for defensive capacities, and also we have life steal with the particular catalyst here for 5%. We have currently 7% lifesteal. You can go for better lifesteal, but I'm also using globes as a regen first. For the amulet, make sure you get something to do with resistance, something to do with HP, maximum HP, get some spell damage, and lastly, you can socket the amulets. This one's not socket properly. This is the correct one. Where is it? This is the correct one. So this is the socket one, and you do want some critical damage if you can. You want to get the sockets for the transfer time. At least 3 transfer time will really help you, because as you cast spells, you have too much reach, you just press the cannon and you instantly get the reach back. Really good. If you don't have enough, having a catalyst actually ruins your transfer time because it minus your transfer time. And that's a majority for the pretty much everything. If you do get the chest armor, that is not a force waiver, you don't need that much critical damage, you go for other source of damage with additional percentage damage. Go for higher resistance and also go for toughness, go for legendary armor if you can, because this one currently can't be socketed. So this is 50% less defense, 50% more damage. But if you go for a resistance gear, you can still work. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. It took me a long time today to make this guide, and repetitive trials of replays and setting things up and things don't work, and I had to redo the save file. It took a long time, so you can see I'm actually like little loss of words, a little tired here than usual. So thank you again for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this particular guide. I'll be making more guides and more tips for you guys with this particular style, and with other guides with rangers, with the warriors as well, and we'll look into those. If you like my videos, please subscribe and follow onto YouTube and Twitch, and that will help me a lot. Using Twitch Prime here on Twitch, that helps me a lot as well. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And yes, next up we're looking into rangers. I want to make a proper ranger, everyone, and maybe damage over time, maybe just a burst damage ranger.